Okay. And if a devotee falls down accidentally, then he is to be considered as saintly. Sadhureva sa mantavyah. So, has anybody got 12 out of 12? No? Okay, never mind. Next time. Better luck next time. I won't ask how much you got. Don't worry.
3 mistakes.
3 mistakes. Okay.
Forward the questions to us in your computer.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll send it all.
Thank you.
Okay. So today we are doing the 10th chapter, aren't we? So, yes, all yours, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna, everybody. Today we do the 10th chapter, verse 1 to verse 6. And I'll start off with verse 1. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Bhuya Eva Mahabhaho
Mahabaho
Shrunu Me Paramam Vachah
Shrunu
Shrume paramam vachah
Yateham Priyamanaya
Yatteham
Yam
Priyamaham
Mokshami Hitakam Yaya.
Vashyami Hitakamyaya.
Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Bhuyaha, again, Eva, certainly, Mahabaho, O mighty armed, Shrunu, just hear, me, my, Paramam, supreme, Vachaha, instruction, Yat, that which, Te, to you, Aham, I, Priyamanaya, thinking you dear to me, Vakshami, say, Hitakam Yaya, for your benefit. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, listen again, I, O mighty armed Arjun, because you are my dear friend, for your benefit I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. Verse 2, Na me vidu suraganaha
Nave Suraganaha
Prabhavam namaharshayah
Prabhavam Namaharshaya
Aham adihi devanam
Ahamadirhi Devanam
Mahashinam cha sarvashah.
Maharshinam Tasharvashah.
Neither the hosts of, na, never, me, my, viduhu, no, suraganaha, the demigods, prabhavam, origin, opulences, na, never, mahashaya, great sages, aham, I am, adihi, the origin, he, certainly, devanam, of the demigods, Mahashinam, of the great sages, Cha, also, Sarvasha, in all respects. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Verse 3, Yo mam ajam anadim cha
Yo mamajamana dimcha
Jamanadim cha
veti loka maheshwaram
Veti
Veti
Lokamaheshwara
Lokamaheshwaram
असमुधः समात्येषु
Asammodaha Sasamateshu
सर्वपापे प्रमुच्यते.
Sarvapavai Pramuchate.
Anyone who mam me ajam unborn, adahim without beginning, cha also, veti knows, loka of the planets, maha ishwaram the supreme master, asamudaha undeluded, saha he, matyeshu among those subject to death, sarva pape from all sinful reactions, pramuchate is delivered. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only undeluded among men is freed from all sins. Verse 4 and 5. Buddhirjnanam asamoha
बुद्धिर्ज्ञानमसम्मोहः
Shama Satyam Dhamma Samaha
क्षमा सत्यं
क्षमा
दम
सत्यं दमः समः
Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhavo
सुखं दुःखं
सुखं
भवो
दुःखं
भवो
भवो
Bhayam Cha Bhayam Eva Cha
भयं च
भयं
भयम् एव च
भयमेव च
Ahimsa Samatatustis
अहिंसा समता तुष्टिः
Tapodanam Yasho Yashaha
तपोदानं
तपोदानं यशो यशः
Bhavanti Bhava Bhutanam
भवन्ति
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 भावभूतानां
भावभूतानां
Mata Eva Pritag Vidaha
मत्त एव
मत्त एव
प्रथिताः
पृथग्विधाः
Buddhihi, intelligence, jnanam, knowledge, asammoha, freedom from doubt, shama, forgiveness, satyam, truthfulness, dhammaha, control of the senses, shamaha, control of the mind, sukham, happiness, dukham, distress, bhavaha, birth, abhavaha, death, bhayam, fear, cha, also, abhayam, fearlessness, eva, also, cha, and ahimsa, non-violence, samata, equilibrium, tushtihi, satisfaction, tapaha, penance, dhanam, charity, yashaha, fame, ayashaha, infamy, bhavanti, come about, bhavaha, natures, bhutanam, of living entities, mataha, from me, eva, certainly, pratak, vidaha, variously arranged. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Verse 6. Maharshaya Sapta Purve
महर्षय सप्तपूर्वे
Chatvaro Manavas Tatha
चत्वारो मनवस्तदा
मानवस्तः
Madbhava Manasa Jata
मद्भावा मनसा
मद्भावमनसा जाता
Yesham Loka Ima Prajaha
येषां
येषां
लोकैमा
लोक
प्रजाः
इमाः प्रजाः
Mahash Rishayah, the great sages, Sapta 7, Purve before, Chatvaraha 4, Manavaha Manush, Tatha also, Matbhavaha born of me, Manasaha from the mind, Jataha born, Yesham of them, Loke in the world, Imaha all this, Prajaha population. The 7 great sages and before them the 4 other great sages and the Manas, progenitor of mankind, come from me. Born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. Now the purport and explanation is from verse 1 again. In the 7th chapter, knowledge of the Absolute, Lord Krishna, while clarifying knowledge with realization, was actually unfolding the secrets of his heart. But Arjun put some questions in between, so the Lord answered his questions and then reverted to the previous topic in the 9th chapter and concluded it by advising exclusive surrender to the Lord. But he was not satisfied with what he had already said to Arjun. As a devotee wants to know of his glories in detail, he also wanted to say something secret to his loving devotee Arjuna. So, by his grace, without being asked by Arjun, he started the topic in the 10th chapter about his specific opulences to Arjun. Actually, the more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. The hosts of demigods and sages cannot know the beginning, the end, and the interim of the Lord, and how he is and in how many forms he has manifested himself. They cannot know his dimensions and limits. The reason is that he was the same when they were born, and he will remain the same when they merge or die. So how can they, whose bodies are born and die, know the beginningless, endless, and limitless God with their limit, intellect, ability, and power, etc.? How can the limitless be confined to a limited intellect? Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand by the grace of the Supreme Personality that he is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord, and out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand him. Even the great sages agree. What is Atma? What is the Supreme? It is he who we have to worship. In this verse, we also learn that Krishna is not known by knowledge, intellect, ability, and power, etc., but he is known by the faith and belief of the inquisitive devotee and by Krishna's own grace. Though a striver cannot know the Lord in his entirety, yet he can know him so much that he can attain salvation. His knowledge about the Lord is that he can assume that he is unborn, without beginning, and he is the Lord of all the lords of the different worlds. The Lord is beyond time. The time which is referred in the world by days and months, etc., is ordinary time, while the Lord is beyond time. This time rests in the Lord. The Lord is eternal time. Such firm assumption removes all doubts about his glories. The Lord is birthless, beginningless, and is the Lord of all the lords. It means that he is imperishable and the supreme sovereign of the world. So he pervades everywhere, every time, all things, and is the Lord of everyone. While the world is perishing every moment, and knowing the reality about the Lord, and the world one renounces his affinity with the world, including the body, and becomes free from feeling of I-ness and mindness. Thus, knowing the truth, he is no more deluded. And by becoming free from the feeling of I-ness and mindness, he has affinity with the Lord and becomes free from all sins of the present and the past. The different qualities of living entities, be they good or bad, mentioned in verses 4 and 5, Krishna is the base and root of all these qualities. In the 12th verse of the 7th chapter also, Krishna declares that whatever entities there are born of sattva, of rajas and tamas, know them all as evolved from him alone. Therefore, the purpose of the Lord is to draw attention towards him, who is the source of all divine glories and feelings. In the previous verses, the Lord mentioned his 20 glories in the form of feelings. Now in this verse, he mentions his 25 divine glories in the form of persons who are administrators of the entire creation. The 7 great sages are those who possess 7 qualities. They are long-lived, they have revealed sacred formulas, they are glorious, they possess divine vision, they are learned, they have realized righteousness, and they are inventors of gotras. These 7 seers are Marichi, Angira, Atri, Pulasya, Pulaha, Skrutu, and Vashishta. They know Vedas and are reputed as annotators of the Vedas. They are administrators of creation and are appointed to help Brahma, the creator, in his work. Sanak, Sanatana, and Sanak Kumar, the four Kumaras, were the first to be born of the mind of Brahma after he did penance. They are manifestations of the Lord. They always remain children of 5 years. They wander in the three worlds to promulgate devotion, knowledge, and dispassion. They always utter the word Hari Sharanam. They love divine discourses, and so one of them holds divine discourses, and the other three listen to him. In a day of Brahma, which consists of 4,320 million years of mortals, there are 14 Manus. They are Swayambhuva, Swarosisha, Atma, Tamasa, Revata, Chakshusha, Vivashvata, Savarni, Dakshashavarni, Brahmashvarni, Dharmashavarni, Rudrashavarni, Devashavarni, and Indrashavarni. They are creators and activators of the world by carrying out Brahma's order. They are born of the mind of Brahma in order to create the universe. So they can be called Brahma's sons. They can also be called the Lord's sons because the Lord manifests himself as Brahma in order to create the world. The whole creation is the product of the Lord's mind. The 7 great sages, 4 Sanaks, etc., and 14 Manus, they are all born of the Lord's mind and are therefore inseparable with God. That's about it. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hope it makes sense.
Absolutely. Prabhuji, I'll hand it over to you.
नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो धोक्ता गोपाल नंदनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। So we'll be starting with 10th chapter today. Until now we have completed 9 chapters, out of which the first 6 chapters is mostly dealt with Karma Yoga. Mostly chapter 3, 4, it dealt with Karma Yoga, the process of Karma Yoga, and then Krishna starts speaking about the Sankhya Yoga and how it is non-different from Karma Yoga, and then he gives a glimpse of Jnana Yoga, and then by the end of 6th chapter, he gets into the basics of Bhakti Yoga, and then he starts speaking the secrets. So that's where he starts speaking the secrets in 7th chapter. So the middle 6th chapter, from chapter 7 to 12, deals with Bhakti Yoga. It is considered to be the secret of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 7, he speaks the secret, which is called the more secret. And then he comes to chapter 9, which is called the most secret, because he speaks like Rajavidya Rajaguhyam, Rajaguhyam. It is king of all the secrets. We might know many secrets, what this person did, what this other person did, But he says this is the secret of all the secrets. So again in 10th chapter, he's going to speak secrets. What we might think, oh, Krishna is speaking so much of secrets, like he's just speaking about himself and he's calling it as a secret. Again in 10th chapter, he'll be speaking secret, which is again greater than the previous chapters. So now let us look into verse 1. I'll just share the screen. Is it visible? Yeah. Shri Bhagavan भूय एव महाबाहो शृणु मे परमं वचः यत्तेऽहं प्रीयमाणाय वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." So here, the most important word that Krishna is specifying is Shrunume Paramam Vachaha. He's saying, just listen to me carefully. But we might think, Arjuna is already listening to it. Krishna speaks from first chapter, Arjuna is already listening, but Krishna here specifies, just listen carefully. This instruction is not just for Arjuna, it's for all of us. Why? Because if we look into this chapter, for the first 7 verses, Krishna is going to, not first 7, actually first until first 11 verses, Krishna is going to speak about the greatness of himself as well as the greatness of bhakti, how he is the origin of everything. So that is what he is going to cover in first 11 verses. And then Arjuna, after listening to all the instructions of Krishna till now, he comes to a conclusion that Krishna is the supreme and he is the ultimate. He comes to the conclusion that Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. He says you are the supreme. You are the supreme shelter of everyone. And then Arjuna asks, I would like to know your vibhutis. Vibhuti means what is your greatness, what is your wealth, everything. So that is the sweetest part. In this world, if, for example, if I go to a person and I ask him, just give me your wealth report, what house do you have and what is your bank statement, how much money do you have in your bank, what is your FD? Do you think a person would declare it outside? I'm just going to a person and asking, just tell me, Prabhuji or Mataji, how much wealth you are having, in which bank account, how much rupees are you, or dollars are you having? Do you think that person would reveal it? No, they want. Why do you carry? It's my own property, why should I reveal it to you? But you can see here how sweet Krishna is. He's saying, Arjuna, how am I supposed to explain that? If I start speaking about my properties, we might say, I have a house at Newmarket or I have a house at Hamilton, example. But what will Krishna say? Everything is his property. He calls many times himself as Maheshwaram. He is the supreme proprietor of everything. Even 7th chapter, he calls himself as Maheshwaram. In 9th chapter, in 10th chapter again, in verse 3, he would be calling himself as Maheshwaram. Then we would think, how am I supposed to reveal my property, report Arjuna? But what I'll do is I'll just give you a glimpse. I'll just take the supreme out of everything, the best among a particular group, and I'll just say I am that particular supreme out of that particular group. And then what is the necessity of Krishna revealing his vibhuti? Because he has already given a glimpse in 7th chapter as well as 9th chapter that he is the proprietor or the source of many things. For example, if you look into 7th chapter, I think from text 9, he explains, Rasoham apsus kaunteya prabhasmi shashishuryayo pranava sarva vedeshu shabdah ke paurusham drishu. And he says 4 verse. The next verse is Punyo Gandhah Prativyam cha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu Tapas Chasmi Tapasvishu. He continues saying, I am the taste in the water, I am the light, whatever object that you can perceive. So I am that quality in that object which manifests in front of you. And then in 9th chapter again, after explaining there are 3 levels of devotees who worship him as one, considering himself as one with the Lord, and then worshipping various devatas as well as worshipping the Virat Rupa. He gives an example, he gives the process how the people who follow the Virat Rupa look into the Lord. So how does he say? Aham kratur aham yajna swadaham aham aushadam mantraham aham evajam aham agnir aham hutam. Then he again says Pitamahasya jagato mata data pitamaha vedyam pavitram omkara riksama yajurevacha. Again he, for 4 verses, again explain that he is the source, or is the best among everything. I am the sacrifice, I am the rites that you perform, I am the rites that you perform to your ancestor, I am the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajurveda. But here again, Krishna in detail expands his vibhutis. This is just like, reading a bank statement and just reading a summary. There are difference, the level of detail that we need. Here, Krishna again in 10th chapter, he's going to explain in depth what are his vibhutis. So in the first verse, he speaks, Shrunume Paramam Vachaha. So that is that Paramam Vachaha. I'm going to explain to you something supreme. Why do we need to explain the supreme? Because by knowing the opulence or the greatness of the Lord, it is very easy to perform bhakti on him. Just like even in this material world, if you want to love someone and if you want to have a deep connection with someone, the first thing is you have to start knowing them. By knowing them or by understanding them, by knowing their greatness, you can love them unconditionally. Similarly, by knowing the vibhutis of the Lord, by knowing the power of the Lord, it is very easy to perform bhakti because we know the person for whom we are performing bhakti, he is so great and I'm here, and the person to whom I am attached is not in my level. That is the reason Krishna is speaking about the Paramam Vachaha. And then to whom is he speaking? Yatteham Priya Manaya. So here Priya Manaya is thinking you dear to me. So Krishna previously once has told this to Arjuna, the same thing. The reason why I am giving you this knowledge. Can someone guess which verse is it? He says the reason, he gives two reasons why I am giving you this rahasyam. Yes, Mataji.
You're non-envious and you're my friend.
Yeah, here my friend is right. Non-envious comes in chapter 9, Anusuya way. But this is, I think it's second text, Mataji, from 4th chapter. I think he says, Bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. Because you are my devotee and you are my friend.
Yeah.
Okay? So here friend doesn't mean like a person should be only situated in Sakya Rasa. So here friend means you have to be favorable to the Lord. So the quality again Krishna mentioning here is because you are dear to me. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti. So this gives us a conclusion that we should always be thinking Krishna as dear to us. So once by thinking Krishna as dear to us, we can receive this knowledge. Because Krishna says, I give this knowledge to someone who is very close to me and who considers himself as dear to me. And why does he give this knowledge? Hita kamyaya. So what is the meaning of hita kamyaya? It means for your benefit. Again, as I spoke before, what is the benefit of Krishna speaking this knowledge is because we get to know the vibhutis of the Lord. We get to know how great is the Lord, and because of which we can perform unalloyed bhakti towards him. So any question in this verse? Anything for you to add, Mataji? (10.2) Name viduh suragana prabhavam nama harshayah aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah. Translation: neither the host of the demigods or devatas nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. So yeah, as we spoke in 9th chapter, Krishna concluded the chapter by stating Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Madhyajimam Namaskuru Mame Vaishyasi Yuktaivam Atmanam Matparayanaha. He says, like, become my devotee, offer obeisances unto me. By constantly engaging with me, you would definitely reach me. So he said, like, fix your mind upon me, or paying obeisance is fine, but he says, fix your mind upon me. But he just gave a theoretical statement, fix your mind upon me. But how to fix the mind upon Krishna? So that is what he's speaking on 10th chapter. So what we might think is, okay, we are mortal beings. We are in this Martya Loka, but there are other supreme beings, right? Like supreme beings, in Devatas. There might be Indra or Chandra, Surya Dev, Varuna Dev, or there are great rishis. So they are in a higher level, right? Definitely. So they are Devatas. So they would be definitely knowing about Krishna, right? So we cannot know about Krishna because we are under illusion. But definitely Devatas, they are very much greater to us. So they can know the Krishna very easily. So that's the common thinking, right? So how can we look into it? For example, let us look into a just materialistic example. For example, a mother is giving a food to her child. She is just feeding her child. The child is saying, "I will only eat the food if you just give me that moon." Just like how a mother would tell her child in India, like what do you say? Just eat, I'll give you that moon. Sitting on the terrace. So she fed she fed the food, and then the child is asking, "I'll not eat again until you give me that moon." Then she's saying, "No, that moon is not reachable to me. We are very far from the moon." Then the child is saying, "No, but dad is standing on the stool. He's standing on the top shelf. So he's very closer to the moon. He can get us the moon." No, but that's not the fact. The Devatas might be higher than us, but the Devatas cannot know Krishna fully, because Krishna is stating here, Aham adirhi devanam maharshinam tha sarvashah. So he says, I am the origin of both the Devatas as well as Maharshis. So just like, what Vishnu Chakravarti gives the example is, just like a child who is born cannot know the greatness or the power of the parent because the parent existed before the child were born. Similarly, the Devatas, they exist because of the Supreme Lord. They exist from the Supreme Lord, because of which both the Devatas and the Maharshis, they cannot know Krishna fully. So why Devatas and Maharshis are used here? Because Devatas are very great in power and Maharshis are very great in intelligence. So Maharishis are great in intelligence compared to us, and Devatas has most power compared to us. But even with great power and great intelligence, one cannot know Krishna completely. So how can one know Krishna completely? So this verse we have discussed many times. So can someone guess what is that verse? So not with power or intelligence, there's only one way to see Krishna or understand Krishna. That's a very famous verse. We have discussed it many times. Any idea? Yeah, Bhaktyamam Abhijanati. And then one more verse from Brahma Samhita. I think it's 5.39. I'm not sure the number.
I stay with love.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the verse. Premanjana Churita. So it is very clear that both power and intelligence are not needed to know the Bhagavan. Why? Because both power and the intelligence, yeah, let's consider the power to be a power which is used for a good purpose. Both the power and intelligence in knowing Bhagavan, under which category and which material mode of nature does it come under?
Sorry, what was the question?
So which mode of material nature does the intelligence and the power which is used to know the Bhagavan comes under?
Passion.
I'm sorry?
Sattva.
Yeah, Sattva Guna. So it means both the intelligence as well as this comes under one of the material nature. Is Bhagavan under the material nature? No, he is completely transcendental. So how can something that is under the control of material nature be a cause of something which is beyond the material nature? So the only way to know Bhagavan is through the process of bhakti. So this doesn't mean again that Devatas and Maharshis are anyway inferior. So they do know about Krishna. The only thing what Krishna is trying to mention here is they do not know Krishna completely. Just like us, we do not know Krishna completely, but we understand something about Krishna because of the mercy of devotees, by the mercy of Guru and Shastra. we understand Krishna, what is his form, what are the activities of Krishna, even then we cannot claim that we know Krishna completely, can we? Even if you would have been reading Bhagavatam for 50 years or 60 years, even after then you cannot claim that I know Krishna completely, because he is unlimited, his glories are unlimited. No one can finish glorifying Krishna because he's completely unlimited. That is the reason behind Krishna stating, even the demigods or the devatas who has great power, they cannot know me because I am their origin. I am the reason behind their power. Nor the great sages with the intelligence cannot know me because I am the source of that intelligence. So, any questions in this? Okay. 10.3 Yomamajamanadim cha vetti lokamaheshwaram asammooಢ samasteshu sarva papai pramuchyate. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme lord of all the worlds, he only, undeluded among men, is free from all sins. Undeluded among men. Asammooಢ sa martyeshu. So here Krishna says, in previous verse he said, even the demigods as well as devatas or the maharishis cannot know him. But here he's saying, but just leave them aside. But one who knows that I am the unborn, okay? Yomam ajam anadim cha. Anadim means I am the ajam means unborn, and anadim means I don't have a beginning. I am without beginning. Just like in Brahma Samhita, it also comes, anadim. Adyam Puranam Purusham Navayauvanam Chai. So he's like completely anadim. He's without beginning. So what does without beginning mean? So even before the creation of the material world, we say the material world is eternal. Like the process of creation is eternal. But even then, even during the stage of destruction, Lord Krishna or Bhagavan exists. During the stage of creation, Bhagavan exists. So he's beyond the process of creation and destruction. Even before the creation he exists, even after the creation he exists. That is the meaning of anadim. And he says, I am unborn. So Krishna again states this, same kind of verse in 4th chapter. Can anyone take a wild guess? What is that verse? He says, like, by knowing that I am unborn and by knowing my karma, those person will not take birth again.
Janma karma cha medavyam.
Yeah. So janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamyeti so Arjuna. So what does he say? Janma karma. So he says my birth is transcendental. Again, what is he saying here? Yomam ajamanadim cha vetti loka maheshwaram. What does he say there? Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah. So he again says, whoever knows that I am unborn. So what does happen? Sarva papai pramuchyate. What does he say there? He doesn't take birth again. Tyaktva deham punarjanma. So there seems to be some connection between these two verses, right? Here he's saying all your sins are removed, and he says you will not take birth there. So how does this happen? It happens because by knowing that Krishna is unborn. So what does this mean? That Krishna is unborn? Because we are reading Bhagavatam, we can see, in 10th canto, we can see that Krishna is taking birth to Devaki and Vasudeva, right? And then Krishna is taking birth as Ram, So, but here he is claiming that he is unborn. So how can we contemplate this? Because these two are two contradictory statements. Krishna stating that he is not born, but the Shastra says that he is born. So how can we understand this is that, yes, Krishna is born, but he's not compelled to take birth just like us. What is the reason behind our birth? We take birth because of our karma. We are forced to take birth. Just like Adi Shankaracharya in his Bhajagovindam says, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jhatarya Shayanam. He says, we take birth, we die, and again we come to a mother's womb, we take birth, we die, This is just happens automatically. We don't have any free will in it. But when Krishna takes birth, it is not because of any material reason or because he is forced to act based on a karma. It is because his birth is itself transcendental. Janma karma cha me divyam. So by knowing that Krishna actually takes birth, but he doesn't take birth, this is because of only his achintya shakti. Because of his inconceivable energy, the unborn takes birth because of his causeless mercy. By knowing this, what happens? All your sins, sarva papai pramuchyate. All your sins are cleared. By clearing all your sins, what happens? All the sins that is obstructing you to perform bhakti, Shuddha bhakti, are all cleared now by having the knowledge about Krishna. So by performing the bhakti, what happens? Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamyeti. So Arjuna. So we can see the connection. You'll be knowing about Krishna. What you'll be knowing that he is the unborn and he's transcendental, but he takes birth. So what one point that we might get misled is he's unborn, but he's he possesses like he takes a birth, but that is not a real birth. We shouldn't come to that conclusion. Also, we should come to a conclusion that Krishna actually takes birth because of his inconceivable energy and mercy, because of which what we clear all our sins, which obstructs our bhakti. We perform bhakti, and because of which we does not come back to this material world. Tadhama paramam mama. We go to the spiritual abode. So that is what we have to understand from this. Okay, so here Krishna says Sarva Papa is Pramuchate, because of which we get bhakti. But how do we get that bhakti? So as we spoke before, even the Maharishis and Devatas, only if they know perform bhakti, they can know Krishna. But the bhakti cannot be caused by power or intelligence. Because we spoke, because power and intelligence are within the material nature, but bhakti is above the material nature. Then what is the reason behind the bhakti? So can anyone take a guess? What is the reason for a person obtaining bhakti?
To avoid jananam punarabi marana.
Yeah. So how can a person obtain bhakti, Prabhuji? Because we discussed, bhakti cannot be obtained by something that is within the material nature.
By following someone, you can say that gurus or mahan or acharya and all that, or reading scripts, or understanding what is what about Bhagwan, Sri Krishna, like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Mataji, do you have anything to say? Vidushi Mataji?
That was the same thing, Prabhuji. So your devotees mercy. So when they tell you something about Krishna or give you prasadam, so it's that.
Yeah, exactly. It is the devotee's mercy and the guru's mercy. If you Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this point very beautifully. He says one point might be opposed. It might come through the mercy of the Lord, right? Not devotee. I'll not take the mercy of devotee. The Lord can provide his mercy because Lord is above the material nature. He can directly bestow mercy. But then he says that becomes even though it is one of the ornament of the Lord, we can see some people receive that mercy and some people do not receive that mercy. Some people possess bhakti and some people do not possess bhakti. Then it means the Lord is partial. He's not distributing the mercy equally. Then what is the reason behind the bhakti is the association of the devotees. So, but devotees, that is the nature of Madhyama Adhikari. If you look into Bhagavatam, the qualities of Madhyama Adhikari is that Madhyama Adhikari means who is not in the lower platform, who is not in the highest platform. He is in middle, Madhyama. So his nature is he becomes friends with the devotees. So he showers mercy on those who is ignorant or on a lower level, and then he avoids those who are unfavorable to bhakti, and he surrenders to the Supreme Lord. These are some of the qualities. So one of his quality is to show mercy on the ignorant. So by associating with pure devotees, here I'm speaking about pure devotees who have bhakti in them, because of their mercy, the bhakti is grown inside a person or person starts to perform bhakti. So this is a way how a person obtains bhakti. So by associating with the devotee who has bhakti in him, Lord Krishna distributes the mercy based on the mercy distributed by the pure devotee of the Lord. So by performing that bhakti, what happens? Tyaktva deham punarjanma will not get back to this material world, which is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So that is what Krishna is trying to tell here. Who knows me as the unborn and beginningless, he is undiluted among men. Being undiluted among men, again, this is not a common term. This cannot be found common. Even in 7th chapter, what does Krishna say? Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvatah. Only among thousands one comes, one even thinks about having the right knowledge. And among those 1,000, one performs bhakti, and among them, then one achieves the spiritual abode, and among them, one comes closer to me. We can just see 1 by 1,000 into 1,000 into 1,000. How rare the process of bhakti is. So undiluted among men. So it's quite rare knowing Krishna to be supreme and being undiluted, and he is freed from all the sins, because of which we never come back to this samsara. Yeah, so any questions on this verse or anything to add? Okay. This verse is quite simple, but yeah. 4 and 5. Buddhir jnanam asammoha kshama satyam damah shamah sukham dukkham bhavo bhavo bhayam cha bhayameva cha ahimsa samata tushtis tapodanam yasho yashah bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva prutagvidah. Translation: intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy, all these various qualities of living being are created by me alone. So previously Krishna says, like, one has to know that I am unborn and I am beginningless. Then there might be a question running in Arjuna's head, or it might be running in our head. Okay, then why should I know that you are the unborn or beginningless? There are various qualities, good qualities. There are various qualities which are prescribed in dharma, which I could just follow, because of which I might know you, right? For example, one of the qualities of dharma is having forgiveness and truthfulness. This is, I think, second quality. The first quality of in Manu Samhita, what they would mention 20 characteristics of dharma is, first one would be non-violence, which is here, ahimsa. And then the second is truthfulness. So there are some qualities which are prescribed in the dharma, that which I can follow, because of which I might know you, right? But Krishna says, no, it's not possible, because all these qualities, which might be either in the mode of Sattvic, Rajasic, or Tamasic. For example, intelligence is Sattvic, freedom from doubt is Sattvic, forgiveness, truthfulness is Sattvic. But whereas birth, death, fear, and fearlessness, these come under Tamasic, because birth and death. Non-violence comes under Sattvic. Satisfaction, if it is Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur states, like, if the satisfaction is unconditional, then it is Sattvic. If it becomes conditional, then it is Rajasic. So again, as we discussed previously, if you look into all these qualities, those are under either one of the material nature, either Sattvic, Rajasic, or Tamasic. And what does Krishna say? All these qualities are created by me alone. They do not independently exist. They exist only because of me. Then Arjuna, how is it possible for someone to know me because of all these which have been created by me and which is in the mode of material nature? It's pretty simple. The baseline is, like, just the base conclusion of this. Just don't depend on all these qualities. Just be dependent on the process of bhakti, only by which we can know Krishna. Like bhakti amam abhijanati. Only through the process of bhakti, one can know the Supreme Lord. Any points to be added on these verses?
All good.
It's a big purport, I think. Yeah, I think it's better if you all read the purport later. 10.6 Maharshaya sapta purve chatvaro manavastatha madbhava manasa jata yesham loka imah prajaha. The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages and manus, come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. This is again just a expansion of the previous verse. Krishna is again speaking his glory, stating like no one can know me to the fullest extent. Just leave the devatas, even the people who are born in the start, the Sapta Rishis, who comes in the line of the Brahma, and then the 4 Kumaras, Sanat and Sanatan and Sanat Kumar, those even 4 people, as well as these Sapta Maharishis, even they who are the beginning and because of whom the progeny has been expanded. Yesham Loka Imah Praja. It means they populated the various planet. It means they are the source of all the population. Just leave the Devatas and Maharshis. Even those superior beings who are there from the beginning, even they cannot know me. Because even those people, they come from my mind. That's what Krishna is stating. They are born from my mind. Madbhava Manasa Ajata. So even those people, they cannot know Krishna because even they have the beginning. What is that beginning? They come from Krishna. Yeah, I think that's what is explained in these 6 verses. From the next verse, we'll be discussing, Krishna would be explaining the process of bhakti, and he would be saying, what is the benefit of understanding the process of bhakti, and after which Arjuna would be inquiring about the vibhutis, and Krishna would start explaining his vibhutis. I think that's it for now. And then from text 8, the 4 important verses, I think that is the Chaturshloki Bhashyam. Chaturshloki Bhashyam, na Mataji, it is called?
Yeah, Chatushloki.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Chaturshloki.
I just want add one thing. So, there's a lot of echo. In Prabhuji, mute. Too much echo. Thank you. In Usha Mataji's talk, Mataji, you mentioned the Saptarishis as Atri, Angiras, Pulaha, Pulastya, and so on, right? Just wanted to let you know that those 7 rishis that you mentioned, they actually come in the Swayambhuva Manvantara, which is the very first Manvantara. Whereas the current one that we are in is called Vaivasvata Manvantara. And the Saptarishis in this Manvantara are Bharadwaja, Atri, Vashishta, Vishwamitra, Gautama, Kashyapa, and Jamadagni. And it's very interesting. Actually, we've run out of time today, but maybe next time we can go through slightly a little background of these 7 rishis, just to understand, how exalted and elevated these 7 rishis actually are. And when Krishna says, even they can't understand me, it's really a big deal. Yeah. So, yeah. So maybe if we have time next week, we'll look at that. So that's just what I wanted to add. That's all. Otherwise, great job, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Any comments? Any feedback? So next Saturday, no class, because next Saturday is Radhashtami. So yeah, it's actually happening in the evening. Yes, Vidushi.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that because the program poster just said 6 p.m. evening program start, the 4 p.m. evening program start. So that's when they're doing. Okay, so that's the main.
That's the main program. Yes. So instead of the afternoon, they're actually doing it in the evening. And I think, yeah, so they have the program all laid out anyways.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna மா.
Hare Krishna.
எப்படி இருக்க?
பரவாயில்ல.
ம்.